Well, look at that. It's Thursday. That means it is time for another AEW Dynamite review here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. We're on your favorite podcast application. I'm Mr. Warren Hayes. It is August 3rd today. Hope everyone is having a good start to August and is having a nice week so far. And I want to thank you for listening in, whether it's on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, where you can leave a like and a subscription. Those things help. Or on your favorite podcast application where you can leave 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, 5-star ratings on Spotify. Again, these things help out tremendously. If you want to do that, that'd be great. Because we are going to be talking about a great episode of Dynamite. I thought this was fun as hell. I thought this was good. And to a degree, one would even say it felt needed. We're going to talk about this as we go along, but this was the big 200th episode of AEW Dynamite, which has been better hyped, in my opinion, than the Wembley show where they are about to make professional wrestling history, or very likely about to make professional wrestling history. There's only 3 more Dynamites before the show. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you at this point. You know, here I am, and I'm thinking in the back of my brain, and I'm going, oh, you know, got to do a preview show. I'm probably going to do a preview show like I do with most AEW pay-per-views, and I'm like, you know, and then I want to reach out to guests. Then I'm like, who am I going to invite on a show that has nothing? Right? Anyway, and this episode that we're speaking of specifically is the August 2nd edition from the Youngling Center in Tampa, Florida. We had 3,658 tickets distributed as of this morning. Of course, I'm recording this on the Thursday. So as of this morning on WrestleTix, set up of 4,482. Yeah, you know, we're in the. This is the average. This is what it looks and feels like for Dynamite. That is celebrating this 200th episode. 200 episodes, right, for a company that I was told would be dead within a year. And then when it survived its first year, so it'd be dead within the next one. Oh, it'll be dead within 5 years. And we're heading into 5 years. It's going to be a year of tremendous business. It's probably going to end up with a very good television deal on top of it all. What are we doing? Sitting around prognosticating the death of something that we potentially have no concept of how it's operating. But you know, it's fine. One of the things that I find most amusing out of the bad faith pundits, you know, and Twitter bozos, Twixter bozos. That's how I've decided to call it, by the way. All of these bozos out there, you know, one of the things I find most amusing when following all these people, watching their thing, is how they keep moving the goalposts. And how they will never accept an L, and they will, you know, they're just throwing shit at the wall so that within, you know, 10 years from now, when something bad happens, they'll be like, bro, I've been saying this since 2020. You know, I thought it was never going to survive. You know, even though that, like, you know, the company's like 15 years old, it's doing very well. Something bad happens, it's going to die within the year, and I've been saying this since 2020. I hope. You know, I say this quite a bit, but if I do, it's because it's meaningful, because it's sincere. I hope you, my A+ audience who listens to this D-list podcast, I hope you're able to parse through this nonsense and zero in on people who you feel are fair, have good observations, and are not just bad faith operators. And you know who they are. I'm pretty sure you do. At this point, you have to have figured it out. You know, and of course, I like to consider that I'm part of your listening rotation because I have something to offer that is meaningful, that makes sense, But not just me. There are other people out there who do fantastic jobs. But you know, if I'm in your rotation, I'm humbled. Thank you. But let's get right to it. No, enough of this self high-fiving. How about that? I didn't do my allocation warm-ups yet. You know, meow. You know, I didn't do that, so you know, mouth is all over the place. Haven't done my verbal warm-ups. Chris Jericho and Kensuke Takeshita defeated Dan Garcia and Sammy Guevara. Good little match to kick this off. Everyone getting their stuff in, and Sammy, you know, had a lot of shine in this match. And he looked very good, if you ask me. Got a super hot tag in this, lands a tornillo and a frog splash and a shooting star press to the floor. Like, you know, he's doing Sammy Guevara stuff. I still don't think he works as a babyface, but this ruled. Garcia blocks a Judas Effect, blocks in the Dragon Slayer, Don Callis, who was at ringside, of course, with Jericho and Takeshita. Clocks Garcia across the head with the bat, with Jericho's bat. Floyd. Chris Jericho sees him do it. And Jericho has a crisis of conscience. A crisis of conscience. Jesus, Warren. Maybe I should have done my warm-ups. He does have, you know, he has a moment where he looks over, he looks at Garcia, he looks at Callis. He's not quite sure, but hey, he goes for the win anyway. He gets the old 1, 2, 3 on Dan Garcia here. So that's an interesting little wrinkle into this whole story, and a good little opener too. I mean, you know, this was mostly an angle, but still very entertaining and well put together. And Jericho had his working boots on too, like he was doing stuff. And you know, Kensuke, you know, if I'm a pro wrestler, like I'm not a pro wrestler, maybe I'll just keep it on that level because I don't want to speak, but I'm not a pro wrestler. Let's say I'm in a ring and I see Kensuke Takeshita run the fucking ropes at me like he does. Like he is a high-speed bullet train to, you know, fucking Osaka or Tokyo or wherever. Like that guy, does anyone run the ropes as fast as Takeshita does? That's insane stuff. I mean, this is not Taya Valkyrie hitting the ropes. Hey, yo. But I enjoyed the match. And I thought it was a good little opener. Gives us a nice little angle to kick things off. Good stuff. A Tony Khan AI welcomes us to the program. After come on. Look, I love Tony Khan, if only because he is the most memeable person in pro wrestling. I don't know what to tell you. He is extraordinary. Whether it's, you know, facial expressions, whether it's, you know, well, that's mostly it actually, or drinking water, or wearing a cowboy hat, or these backstage segments where he's absolutely reading off a prompter, and that is absolutely okay, by the way. I don't have an issue at all with anyone reading off a prompter. You want to make sure you hit exactly the right words, the right tone, the right you want to make sure you get all your talking points in. That's not what I'm laughing at or having a chuckle towards. It's more Tony just being there and just like, hello, fellow wrestling fans. And it's like, he didn't say that, but that's how it comes off, is what I'm trying to say. Is, hello. Brilliant. I love him so much. He did blink though. He blinked like within the first 10 seconds of starting, and I'm pretty sure he didn't afterwards, but it wasn't a long message. And he, talks about we're on the verge of, being of the biggest wrestling show of all time. So, okay, let's get the ball going then. But, he welcomes us to 200 episodes of Dynamite, and we have a nice little video package recapping some of the big moments of Dynamite 200. And it's crazy. You're looking back at stuff and like, holy shit, look at all this great stuff that happened and stuff that I feel fond memories about. They did, they showed the table spot, the glass table spot with Mox and Kenny, and the parking lot brawl, and a whole bunch of shit. I'm like, you know what? We're 5 years in. There is history to this. Like, if anyone wanted to start up a rewatch of old AEW stuff, I think it's reasonable to do so. There's a lot of shit that happened in 5 years, a lot of memorable stuff as well. Good, bad, lots of good, but I thought that was nice. I thought it was well put together, wasn't overblown, didn't outstay its welcome. I saw people going, they didn't put much of CM Punk, did they? Well, CM Punk didn't debut on Dynamite. If you will recall, I believe it took like a month. He was on Rampage. That was CM Punk's show. He was on week after week on Rampage, and I believe it took like a month before he showed up on Dynamite. Something to that effect. Someone will prove me wrong if I am. Oh, they showed a lot of Cody Eaton moves. So they also showed him with Brandy, like, doing his entrance. It's so petty. It's pro wrestling. Who cares? As I always say, let's do more of that. Let's do more of that. I'm off track already. Back from commercial. We have Renee Paquette. She's talking with Chris Jericho, and Daddy Magic Matt Menard comes in, and he says, we need to have a mandatory meeting. We need to have a mandatory meeting next week, Chris. I am legitimately working on my Matt Menard impression. Sports entertainers. I was like, next week, we're having a Jericho Appreciation Society. We're having a mandatory meeting, Chris. Guy, I don't want to. I love Matt Menard. That's all there is to it. So JAS are fucking fed up with this bullshit. Can't say I blame them. I'm interested to see what the end game here is. Because look, what if it is what if Don Callis ends up seducing all of the Jericho Appreciation Society over to his side? I think, right? Wouldn't that be the utmost swerve? Like Don Callis goes, no, hey, Chris, you blew it, pal. I gave you, I wined and dined you, and you led me on. I got to move forward here. And then we have the new Don Callis. I think that might be a thing, but we'll see. I still wonder what the end game is here. Tony Schiavone is in the ring. He has Jack Perry come out. Jack says, he grabs the microphone and Tony, Chris and I were watching Dynamite together last night, and she asks, and she asks me, because Tony is, he's talking, and then Perry rips the mic out of his hand, and Tony just keeps going. What are we talking about? Jungle Jack Perry, Jack Jungle Perry. Perry gets Jerry Lynn to come out, right, to take his ass whooping like a man. And Jerry Lynn comes out and he says, look, all the plates and screws that he has in his neck, it's just not going to happen. Like, some people thought that this was going to be a match. I was like, first of all, it was advertised as being a face-to-face, and knowing Jerry Lynn's surgical history, like, there's no way this guy's ever wrestling again. He's not taking a bump at the very least. Like, that's insane. But, so then he says, I can't wrestle anymore, but, I know a good friend from back in the day in ECW who still wrestles today. Says it's Rob Van Dam, and Rob Van Dam comes out to the surprise. Well, I mean, it was going around in the news earlier in the day, but it's still a nice surprise because he came out to Pantera. He came out to his old theme. And look, you can bitch about what you want. There's many things you can criticize Tony Khan for. But Tony Khan understanding the brain of a wrestling fan, that's something you can't take away from him, because everyone lost their shit. Unless you've never watched, a single episode of ECW, weren't around in the day, that's fine. But all of us old heads, we all just collectively lost it. And I got shivers, and I was telling Kristen, I have shivers. This is great. He gets it. It's like Danielson with the Final Countdown. He understands this shit. Tony does. And this only comes from being a fan himself. From being one of us, from the get-go. So, Jack Perry slinks out of the ring when Rob Van Dam gets there, and Jerry and Rob have a nice little moment in the ring. And then Perry he runs in with a chair, tries to take a swing at Rob, who ducks. And then Perry avoids a jumping roundhouse by Rob Van Dam, and he hits the bricks. Good, very effective segment. And the idea, right, is that, and you could hear Taz chuckling. The idea, of course, is because, because Jack Perry was running down ECW and telling Taz, I can beat any of your boys. It's not going to be Jerry Lynn, but then this is one of Taz's boys, and they're going to have a match next week on Dynamite. People say, Rob Van Dam can still go. Well, he can still wrestle. I think, we'll see what happens, but we're going to have to pump the brakes on he can still go until we'll see. Like, he can still do his jumping roundhouses, so that's something. But I'm still excited nonetheless for this. This is a great angle. And again, look, there is not a promotion on earth that has not tapped in to ECW to get shit over. You can sit here and you can complain as much as you want in regards to how ECW was a poor influence in the business, and I will tell you every time it was the absolute opposite, and how much it's influenced the business, and we're fucking 30 years removed from the heyday of this company, and people still remember it fondly. And ECW didn't have like this 15-year stretch. We're talking like, what were the good years? 4 years tops for ECW, right? Like the really good years. And am I being generous? And we're still talking about it today, and we're still bringing people back, and we're like, yeah, remember ECW? That was fucking great. Influential. There's no promotion on earth that will not use it to some extent. We get a promo from Hikaru Shida, or pre-tape, I should say. Now she's going to win the title. Toni Storm says she's not. This is all setting up their match for later tonight. This leads us to Trent Beretta defeating Jon Moxley and Penta El Zero Miedo in their no disqualifications match. And this was fantastic. Absolutely amazing plunder match. There's a baseball bat covered in wire. And I'm like, okay, weapons wild. Now the weapons are wild. Moxie uses it on Trent, slashes him with it. Trent suplexes Mox onto the bat. And we have Trent and Mox flying off the corner through tables on the floor. We've got shit all around the ring. Penta does an avalanche destroyer through a table. We've got pile drivers on tacks and back body drops on tacks. a scrunchie by Trent on Tax. And then this leads us to the finish where Mox lands the Death Rider or the fucking Paragon of Virtue, the shit. What do we call it in North America? The paradigm shift. He lands it on Penta, but Trent runs in, kicks Mox off, and steals the win, which I thought was badass. Finally, fucking best friends get a semblance of a win here. Look, I thought this match ruled. I thought this match absolutely ruled. Tremendous stuff and great work. And not sloppy. Just guys just throwing shit at each other and into each other. I hope they cleared everything with the coaches backstage before. I'm telling you, I'm feeling sassy today. Look, this is, I don't know if you all listened to the Mr. Warren Hayes show this week, my own little mothership podcast, but this is what I mean when I watch a match like this and then I'm told, Weapons Wild on NXT and I see the softest shit happening. On a no disqualification match where two people are supposed to hate each other and, they come out smiling and hugging and, I don't want to get back into that, but this is what I mean when I look at the softest of PG plunder matches on one end and I'm like, I can't get into this. And then I tune in 3 nights later and I see this awesome shit happening. How can I sit around and go like, how can I then look at whatever happens in these Weapon Wild matches on NXT and be like, yeah, this was great. No, it stunk. This was great. And don't tell me it's two different things. No, it's not. It's not. Because the minute you decide to get hardcore, bring in weapons, you have to sell that. It has to come off as hard and dangerous. This was it here. After the match, Claudio and Yuta, they make their way to the ring. They want to come get some licks in, but Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy ambush them. They brawl in the crowd. Hopefully they got all of this covered. Just great stuff. Just a big brawl at the end. And Chucky T gets on the mic and he says, look, we're going to finish this proper on Rampage this week. We're going to head back to Daly's place and we're going to have ourselves a parking lot brawl. And I'm like, okay. Rampage is the A show again. So that'll give us something to talk about. Then we get Rob Van Dam being interviewed backstage by Renee, basically saying, he's going to challenge him for the FTW title. And when he wins, he's going to inflate the value to ridiculous levels and then retire it. And he calls him Jungle Jerk. And he's so high. You're looking at him. First of all, this is probably one of Rob's best promos, period. Like, not necessarily known for his work on the stick. However, calling him Jungle Jerk was pretty boss, and goddamn was he high. But it's Rob Van Dam. MJF next comes to the ring to a big reaction from the crowd. He's got the belt. He's looking great. And he says, look, we got to have a heart-to-heart. He says he's going to be a little emotional. Talks about his battle with attention deficit disorder. He says with that comes a litany of other disorders, including rejection sensitive dysphoria, which where you have trouble managing feelings of rejection. They get overblown out of proportion. And, he brings back that story that he's told us before about being bullied when he was a kid. the story about the quarters and anti-Semitic taunts being thrown at him. And that sort of led him into becoming a scumbag. He's like, I have to stab people in the back before they stab me in the back. So, he recognizes he's a scumbag. But being a scumbag, it's easy. Getting booze, it's easy. Being vulnerable is hard. And he realizes that the audience has sympathy for the devil. And he's not going to change overnight. He's not suddenly going to, he's still going to be a scumbag, but he's going to be our scumbag, which gets the people to chant. Look, they chanted for ADD, which made him chuckle, right? And which made me chuckle as well. And people chanting, you're our scumbag. Fantastic stuff. And then he gets Adam Cole into the ring, who comes out, and there's, no music, no Adam Cole, baby, none of that stuff. Cole puts him over, saying he's one of the best in the world. He appreciates the man he's becoming, having the guts to talk about what he's been through. And Cole wants him to know that he's not alone. MJF says he enjoys the verbal fellatio. He called him out here because he had he promised him a title shot, and he says, look, I've decided you don't deserve a match. Then everyone's like, what the fuck? Okay, here we go. But no, he deserves the match, and he has a contract with them. This is the biggest crowd, main event, Wembley, all in. Adam Cole versus MJF has been set. And backstage, Roderick Strong is throwing a tantrum, and he's tossing shit around. He's breaking monitors. He's kicking things. He still has his neck brace. I'm like, don't strain yourself, Rod. Careful now. Don't want to re-aggravate that injury. And then the Kingdom are there. Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, and say, hey, look at that. Adam Cole forgetting his real friends again, and then they walk away. So there's all this ROH history going on right here. So, lots to break down here. First of all, very, sincere and emotional promo from MJF, something we've seen him do before. This isn't like, it shouldn't come to a surprise to anyone is what I'm trying to say. Good stuff. I enjoyed it. There's something that has to be said about, how these tough guys, these pro wrestlers can come to the ring and be open about, shit things they've lived through, their feelings, their disorders, talking about things that as dudes, as men, we're typically we're supposed to sort of bottle that up inside, or, we're not supposed to talk about how we feel. We're not supposed to, bring forth any issues. And men, just like anyone else, I'm not trying to make us feel special. Everyone has problems. And I think that having people come out and open themselves up and show themselves to be vulnerable on television, I think that does help, break down barriers might be a little strong, but it does help create a sense of normalcy a little more as we go more and more through it, as opposed to just being, no, you got to be alpha males. I think there's something sane to begin with and refreshing on a second level to have people just come out, public personas like that, people that you don't expect to be in these vulnerable positions, to be vulnerable. We saw Mox do that with his own drinking problems. It's like, I enjoy this stuff on that level. And I think it's fresh enough, and it's new enough, and it's not overwrought either. We're not going to have MJF then hit the circuit and said, well, I hope that, through my words, people will, understand ADD more. I mean, that's what he's doing, but we're not ham-fisting this. And I think that's very, I think that's very interesting on that level. Now, the main event, before the main event, before we get to the main event, MJF, and look, I've been talking about this on the Collision reviews, and I think we're closer and closer to this, right? Because CM Punk drawing an X on the belt and calling it the Real World Championship, that is shots fired. That is the opening of the CM Punk MJF feud, right? CM Punk wants to be a heel in AEW. Creative right now just want him to pump the brakes and go a little, But you know that promo that he cut last Saturday where everyone got nuts, and I talked about it on the Collision show in detail, and I'm not gonna. These are the cliff notes here. The promo that got everyone mad and so on. These are heel promos he's cutting. Oh, he shouldn't. He took a shot at the Bucks, at the Elite. Who cares? And the promos that he's cutting are heel promos. He's saying it in his promos. I'm straight edge. I'm better than you. There's no. He's leaning more and more into it. He's baby facing with Ricky Starks right now, but I'm willing to bet 10 Canadian rubber bucks that he's going to use the ropes to beat Ricky Starks this Saturday. CM Punk wants to be a heel. They wanted him to come in as a face, but from the get-go, from the very first promo he cut on the very first Collision, he has been healing it up. And it's been a little off and on. He's been tweening, but he's leaning towards heel. In the meantime, we've got MJF here being the babyface. What does this mean to you? What are we trying to do here? And MJF tripled down on being a babyface. And I don't think this is all for a big swerve on Adam Cole. I don't think this is what it's for. I think this is clearly to establish a line between CM Punk and MJF, where MJF will be the clear babyface and CM Punk will be the nasty heel. Because right now, the MJF and Adam Cole is working like crazy. Look at the rating that Collision popped. We talked about it on the podcast this week. So there's something working here. People are gravitating to it. And MJF, if anything, is demonstrating he can do it all. He can do whatever the hell he wants. He can be a top heel. He can be a top babyface. My main takeaway is how this guy can do it all. He is an unparalleled pro wrestler. You just pop him in and out in any type of situation, and he will own the room. And he's not. So what I'm saying here is that I am not expecting anymore a big MJF swerve on Adam Cole. I think this is purposeful to get MJF to be the biggest fucking babyface possible, so that when he's in the ring with CM Punk and CM Punk starts being an asshole, we know who to turn on. That's what I think they're doing. Now, the conventional wisdom right now has people saying, well, if they're doing Adam Cole and MJF at All In, they're doing CM Punk and they're obviously doing CM Punk and MJF at All Out, which feels a little weird. I still think there's mileage in this to get us to Full Gear. And I think it would be even more significant if it was at Full Gear, because it was at Full Gear 2022. Feels like eons ago. I had to think about it for a second, but it was at Full Gear 2022 that CM Punk was supposed to drop the belt to MJF. So there would be a full circle significance if they did it there. And I still think that's where they should do it. Not rush into this. What do you do for the main event for All Out? Look, brother, I don't know. But I feel like right now things are messy enough as it is, with All In barely being announced, barely, like, we got a match on it, right? And that's about it. We can start fantasy booking, but there's really only one match announced. I don't even want to know what's going on backstage, Apparently, it's a bit of a mess. That's what my haunts have been saying. I don't know how, that's all I know. That's all I've been told. I don't know, I cannot confirm or not, but I would not, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm not saying that it absolutely is. What I'm saying is that I would not be surprised if it is. That being said, MJF babyface is to face CM Punk. As for the main event for All In, you see, this is why I like to sleep on things, because I went to bed last night thinking about the main event and was like, that's a choice. Isn't that interesting? Cole, MJF, is that your main event? And then I'm just thinking about everything that's been happening over the past few weeks and how there's still so much stuff you can fill the undercard with. I'm like, well, maybe this just works out fine, because this angle is hot. It is molten hot. Look at the crowd reactions. Look at the ratings. It's been popping quarter hours. What do you want from me? This is working. It might not be, like I said, like I've said, my cup of tea. I think there's been equal parts hits and misses throughout this build, but the hits have been good. I thought this was a good segment. We'll see how the rest of this card shakes out. Then we get the Elite defeating Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh. Look, this match was a celebration of the Elite re-signing. This is what this was. Don't kid yourselves as to why the news of them re-signing was only leaked yesterday or the day before, right? Don't kid yourselves. This was all planned. The 200th episode, this was all planned. They've probably re-signed months ago at this point. Months, maybe weeks. They didn't put pen to paper on Tuesday morning, is what I'm saying. This was put together. Crazy finish. Look, this was just a wild, funny, dopey little affair that was just meant to feel good. Celebrate the Elite. Crazy finish where you got Sanjay Dutt involved, Karen Jarrett involved, the Hardys got involved, Cutler, and then Hangman Page pops in out of nowhere to buckshot Lariat Lethal and the One-Winged Angel by Omega to finish the job. So let's talk about it. They've re-signed. They've officially re-signed. We can finally end the speculation. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who had all this insider news that the Elite were not going to re-sign with at the very least the Bucks, that the Bucks had no intention of re-signing with AEW, that they were on their way out. I want to give a big shout out to all of you out there. And but I'm having should we be surprised? Not really. If anything, I'm just content that the anxiety that a lot of AEW fans were feeling in regards to the Elite potentially leaving is done, and that we can move on. We can stop worrying about this shit. We can stop bringing it up at every corner, and then at the same time having dopes try to trick us into believing that they are unquestionably leaving. So this is all good. And it kind of, I'm going to join a chorus here of a few people who have had the same thought, but to my defense, I did have the same thought as well, but there's no way to prove it. So, but let me join in the chorus, if anything. I feel like they signed long-term deals. What is long-term? I feel long-term is more than 2 years. It's probably more than 3. Is 5 long-term? Is 7 long-term? I don't know. Long-term deals. But I feel like if this was the time to go to WWE, let me say that again. I feel like this was the time for them to go to WWE, if only for Kenny. Like if Kenny ever wanted to have his World Wrestling Entertainment run at 41, what is he? He's 41, right? Isn't he? Hang on, like he's right. How old is Kenny Omega? He's 31. He's 39? 1983? I thought he was older. I really thought he was older than that. Are we sure on this information, Google? It's wild to no. He's 39 right now. He's going to be 40 this year. That's wild. Okay. Well, hey, Nonetheless, this was probably the opportunity to have his run, right? Because look, he is getting up there in age, right? The injuries, as we know, are piling on. So if he ever wanted something remotely possible for him to do, well, this was the opportunity for him to jump in and do it, right? This was like, if, let's say the deal is long term, let's say, what? Do we agree that 5 years is long term? Let's say 5 years, okay? He'll be 45 by the time he's open again to go wrestle for the Fed. Now, wrestlers in their 40s are still having very successful careers, but, would he have the same type of impact in WWE at the age of 45 with injuries still being there, maybe more injuries piling on, so on and so forth? Will he still have the same type of impact? Would WWE still be interested in signing him at the same time? That's a whole other thing. If only to just be like, oh, well, we grabbed Kenny Omega as well. That could be, they could just do that and that'd be fine. So I kind of feel like this was the moment to do it, right? This was the time to jump in and do it. I feel like it's a window of opportunity that probably won't happen again. So I'm convinced that Kenny is satisfied at this point with not having ever set foot in World Wrestling Entertainment. I think he's content with that because he's absolutely a guy, and he's, and you listen to his interviews from, even years ago, where he was saying, look, I want to stick around. I want to build stuff. And then when I feel like it's built, I want to move on. He doesn't say that. It's not verbatim, but that's what he means. So, it can only mean that right now with AEW, he feels he still has more to give. And the Bucks said, it's like, look, our travel, we don't want to travel every, be on the road 4 days a week. We want to see our families and so on. And see, that's a big deal for these guys. It's a huge deal. So that was part of their decision, and they're still EVPs as well. Kenny, the Bucks, of course, Hangman Page, who no one was really considering being part of this negotiation, but clearly he was. He also resigned. Of course, he's not an EVP, but he's resigned as well. So that's all fantastic. I've seen people say, oh, well, the only reason they're not in WWE is because there's a hiring freeze right now. This alleged hiring freeze. That is this big rumor that people pull out whenever it feels convenient for them. It's like, oh, if they're trying to hire someone like Roosh, they're like, oh, isn't there a hiring freeze? No, that's just a rumor. But then when they can't sign Roosh, they'll say, oh, hiring freeze. So they're talking about I've seen, not many people, but I've seen the discussion that Kenny and the Bucks did not go to WWE because there's a hiring freeze. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something very important. Even if there is a quote unquote hiring freeze, that there was this mandate, if WWE, listen to me very closely, if WWE had an opportunity to bring in Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, they would have found a way to do it. Hiring freeze be damned. Well, Ari Emanuel wouldn't. This is we're not picking up some J-Bron off the indies here. We're not talking about picking up talent that no one has heard about. This is poaching three of the biggest stars of your competitor and bringing them into your side. Not unlike what you did with Cody Rhodes. Okay? If you believe that some self-imposed hiring freeze would have kept WWE from hiring Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, you are naive. They would have found a way to do it. They would have skirted it. They would have sat down. Nick Khan would have sat down with Ari Emanuel and said, look, Ari, we are going to stick it to the competition. If we do this, this is so critical. We won't have another opportunity like this before another 5 years. And then again, we might not even be interested in blah, blah, blah. It's ridiculous, is what it is. If we're being real here, it's all absurd to think that that wouldn't have happened. And hey, excuse me, after the match, they have a little post-show promo. They have a little post-match promo, and Hangman announces, he says, we've re-signed and we're happy to be here, and Kenny, it's a whole rah-rah speech, right? And it feels good. And then we find out, excuse me, we find out, like, after the show, people have taped this. MJF came out after the cameras stopped rolling, and he cut a promo where he basically said, I'm glad to be here. Tony Khan has made me a very rich man in 2024, and it's like, he's basically saying, as opposed to when he's always talking about, when he's talking about the bidding war of 2024, but he's basically saying, I love this place. I love being here and performing with you guys. Isn't it nice to have wrestlers in AEW actually saying, hey, you know what? I'm really happy to be here. Isn't this nice? Because a couple of months ago, very systematically, all you'd hear is, can't wait to get out of this place. Then you'd hear, you'd have people subtweeting. You'd have people posting pictures with contracts with other logos on them. And you'd be like, does anyone want to fucking work here? Does anyone want to work in this fucking place? So isn't it nice that the four guys, the elite, like whose name is in the name of the company, come on, they say, we're super happy to be here. We're glad there's no other place for us to be. You have MJF, fucking heel of the company, coming out and saying this place is great. Got Roosh, of all fucking people, saying AEW fans are the greatest. It's like, isn't this nice? Shouldn't you be happy to be making gobs amount of money, doing what you love, and being on national TV every week? Feels like it's a fair trade, right? Because I was at a point where I was like, look, if you're not happy, hit the bricks. If all you're going to do is sit around and bitch about it, just hit the bricks, baby. That's all. So it's refreshing. It's nice. Now we have to talk about this awesome fucking angle with Swerve Strickland and AR Fox. So they do a whole bit backstage, and they're with Prince Nana, and they do a whole bit backstage where AR Fox sort of explains, justifies why he turned on Darby. He's like, you didn't even call me. You say there wouldn't have been a Darby Allin without AR Fox, but you didn't even call me when I got signed here. The fuck, man? Took you 5 years, whatever, And it's changed. And then Strickland says, and your family, but when you're a Mogul affiliate, I'll take care. Now that AR Fox is a Mogul affiliate, I'll take care of him and I'll put him in one of my movies. I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? And then we get the fucking great angle of Fox and Swerve with Nana on the camera, right? Okay. Going to Nick Wayne's, training garage, and his training partners are there, and they just beat the shit out of this kid. They beat him up so hard, crack a picture of Buddy Wayne and Nick. Like, Nick is like, what, 13 on the picture, 12, something like that. Like, crack it over his head. And we've got Nick Wayne, who isn't even old enough to drink, running the razor on a fucking pre-tape for this company. I mean, and they they throw skateboards out the window. They like there's blood all over the canvas, and Swerve is in full control of the situation, and he looks like a fucking mastermind and the most evil villain you have on earth. And AR Fox he's just eating up the scenery, and he's doing everything great. These are the types of vignettes and shit that work because they connect directly into pro wrestling. They make sense. There's no hidden cameras. This was an ambush. It was an assault. And it was gritty, and it was well done. And these guys, these Mogul affiliate guys, don't give a shit. And it is awesome. Like, these guys are terrible people. Vindictive and awful. This worked so much. And they even have them call. They pick up the phone, the Nick Wayne's phone. And they want him to call Darby. So they put the phone in front of their face because it's the facial recognition gimmick. And he's bleeding. He's got he's on the Muda scale. And Swerve is like, can't unlock the phone because the face doesn't recognize you, right? Because of all the blood. And then he starts smearing it all over his face. And it's that kind of good uncomfortable where you're like, this is really awful. Like, this is bad shit. This is villainous, bad, terrible shit that I'm watching, but it's compelling. It says, all right, unlock your phone, motherfucker. And he does the thing. It's call him. Poor Nick Wayne. He's all alone. His buddies got, kicked in the head. They're out. Fucking useless dance partners he's got. Tell you what. All of this worked. What a tremendous, tremendous angle. And I look, Strickland's a star. I've been telling you all this for years at this point. This guy's ceiling is the top. And if he keeps pulling off shit like this ruled. Absolutely ruled. And we had Aussie Open defending for the first time their newly won Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship against El Hijo del Vikingo and Commander. I like this match a lot as well. The Lucha Boys are in top form here. Vikingo, gotta try to get the pronunciations down, does a standing tornillo thing in the ring. Like, I don't even know how he did that. Like, I'm just looking at that and I'm like, and I post it in the Discord and people say it's cheat codes, Warren. And I'm like, oh, sure. That actually makes much more sense because, I don't understand physics and reality looking at what that kid does. It's outstanding. Stereo dives by Commander and Vikingo that are caught by Aussie Open into a super collider on the floor. Commander lands a destroyer off the back of Vikingo while Vikingo is in a fireman's carry position on Mark Davis's back. But Aussie Open get the Coriolis for the win. Just great stuff. Just great fucking stuff. More Lucha guys on Dynamite. More. Because yes, I get Mighty Nitro vibes when I see this. Have more Lucha guys come out, have them fight each other, and get some wins though, because Commander cannot get a win in the TK verse. Ring of Honor, Dynamite, wherever the fuck. Commander needs some wins. Have these guys fight each other. We get a video package for CM Punk versus Ricky Starks for the real world title this week on Collision. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, of course, is the special guest referee. And this leads us to our main event for the AEW Women's World title, where Hikaru Shida defeated Toni Storm to become the new champ. Good match that had a really compelling final stretch. I thought the final stretch of this match helped raise it because I thought it was good, but it really took off in the final third of the match. We get some interference from the Outcasts throughout the match, but it was useful, useful interference That's all built into the match, into the drama it creates. You know, it's not just like doing shit for doing shit. No, this was all purposeful. You know, will Shida overcome it? Kendo stick gets slid into the ring, but Shida uses it on the Outcasts, not on Toni Storm, to avoid a disqualification. While the ref is distracted with all this kendo stick nonsense, Toni Storm spray paints Shida in the face, lands the Storm 0, but Shida kicks out and she rolls up Toni for the win. Look, I enjoyed this match and I am shocked. I shouldn't have been shocked. I should have seen this coming. The minute that they announced it as the main event, I should have been like, we're getting a title change, but it didn't make sense. So then I was like, well, then someone's coming out. Then there's a big reveal. It's like, oh, is Britt Baker going to come out to challenge? That's not big enough. I was like, are they bringing in Mercedes Moné? No, that wasn't it. But I was like, then all the scenarios are going through my brain. It's like, are they bringing in, is Utami Hayashishita coming in? Then I'm looking up on, you know, Stardom. Is she busy? What is she doing? What are we doing? You know, is Julia coming in? What's the thing here? But we got a new champ. And I'm surprised. I don't know what the plan is here. I don't know what they're doing, what they're going to do with Toni. I don't know what even the plan is for Shida moving forward. They've probably got something in the chamber here. Like this can't be random. There has to be a plan, which is absolutely directly tied into the pay-per-views coming up in August and September. Like it has to. But listen, they talked about it, you know, and it's been a talking point among fans as well. And Excalibur brought it up. You know, Shida never got her, her reign in front of an audience. She carried the division throughout the pandemic. She was fantastic in that role as well. Let's see how it carries out now that she's in front of a crowd. 2-time women's champion. Good for her. Let's just go. I'm excited for this. Anytime we get some mix-up in this, some stuff mixing up in the women's division, I like it. And I feel this opens up some possibilities and things that I don't necessarily see coming, which is all the more interesting. So a good main event to close out a very good episode of Dynamite. You got some great matches. You got shit happening. You got some great angles. You got some good storytelling. The Elite are back. Feels good. All of this feels good. I'm really excited for how all of this is gonna play out over the next few weeks. But hey, in the meantime, we're gonna wrap it up for today. And I want to thank you all for listening and watching, or both, or either, because I said and listen. Thank you. Likes, subscriptions, reviews, ratings, all that stuff helps out a great deal. You know what? I'm going to be back. If we talk about some programming, I'm going to be back this Saturday for the continuation of my daily G1 Climax 33 coverage. We're going to be in the final night. It's going to be the final night of Block A this week, this Saturday. So, if you want to be there for that, that's when I'm going to be back. Also, you can watch all of my previous episodes if you want to catch up with the G1, because now we're really into the nitty gritty in the final moments before we qualify for the playoffs and all that. So it's getting really, really exciting. And of course, I will be back on Sunday for the AEW Collision review. So wherever you decide to come back and see me, I'll be around. I will see you next time.